The project you're about to do is fairly challenging, but reaps a huge reward. If you do this project right and you take your time with it, you're going to have a really awesome project when you're done with it. So, in order to understand this project, you have to first understand where the idea comes from. Now, let me again back up. If I was going to teach a high school beginning painting class or even a college beginning painting class, this would be the first project I would do. And that is finding shadows, and not just finding the shadow, but also finding the shape of the shadow and then filling them in. This is the main point in painting realism, is identify the shadow, then what is the shape of that shadow, and then fill in that shadow to the correct tone. Okay? Once again, locate the shadow, find the shape of the shadow, and then fill in that shadow with the correct tone. If you do that, you are going to have a really awesome looking project. So this right here that you can see in front of me, this is a paint by number. You can get these at any art supply store. You can get them at Michael's, Hobby Lobby. You could probably even get them at like Target. They have certain ones. These are basically for two types of people. Kids who are learning how to paint, or people who don't want to think about painting. What happens is you go and you buy one of these, and it has little tubes of paint. Now, each one of those little tubes of paint has a number on top of it. It might say 7 or 6 or 14 or whatever. Well, what you would do is you'd open up that paint, and then inside of one of these sections, let's say this section right here, this one says a number 4, so I would then take the paint that says number 4 and I would fill in that entire one that says number 4. I would do the same thing with 17. I would find whatever 17 was, fill in 17. 17 is white, so this little spot right here would be white. There's even parts where it says 4/17. So that means you would mix 4 and 17 together and fill in that shape. So if you fill in all of the shapes correctly, you're going to get a horse. I don't know if you can see that here. Now, a lot of people freak out when we start doing the project because they get to this, and this is what they have, just a bunch of shapes. This is what your project's going to look like before you start painting it. Now, the key is to figure out what color you're going to paint in each one of these shapes. Also, when you're doing this project, make sure that you do enclosed shapes. You can't do a line. A line doesn't work. It has to be something that is enclosed that you can fill in. That's key to this. What I mean by that is if I have an eye, drawing an eye like that doesn't work because there's lines there. If I was going to draw this, I'd have to draw it like this. That's a shape that I can fill in. I can't fill in that shape. I can fill in this shape. So, this is where we're going with it. We're going to be essentially creating your own paint by number. So, if you fill in your projects, I started out first with just a picture of a famous person. So you can get a picture of either yourself. You could take a picture of yourself and then adjust the contrast. You can find a picture on the internet and adjust the contrast, or you can take one from my binder. The binder ones are easier because they're already done for you. But otherwise, you'll have to find a good dark and light so that you create these sections of dark, light, and gray. So this is the original picture I started out with. You can see it's basically divided up into 3 sections. You've got light sections where there's no ink, gray sections where there are a little bit of ink, dark gray sections where there are a little bit more ink, and then black where there's a lot of ink. And what I do is I divide those sections up into shapes, and then I eventually get that. That's what the final project looks like. So I find the shadow. Okay, so if you can see, I took this peach color here. This is light peach. gray peach, darker gray peach, black. With the hair, light hair color, gray hair color, black. So I'm locating the same tones here, so light, gray, dark gray, black, and I'm translating them to a color. That's essentially what you're doing with this project. So let's go over the rubric on how I'm going to grade you. Looking at this project right here. Okay, now I'm just going to go over the A column. This is located with this project. If you want to take a look at it, you can open that up on your computer. All right. Correctly identify the light, dark, light gray, and dark gray areas of the project and fill them all with the correct tones of color to make a realistic looking portrait. So it does have to look realistic. You're using realistic colors, and that is basically, did you find the shapes and enclose them with light gray, dark gray, and black? Did you find those? And then not only did you find those, but did you fill them in with the right tone? That's huge with this. You have to make sure that, okay, this is the light skin tone, this is the gray skin tone, the dark gray skin tone, and then black. All right, layout. The project is situated correctly on the page and uses the entire page. Background is filled and interesting. So what that means is you filled the background. Your project isn't like weird in a weird spot. It's like you're using the entire page appropriately with your person's face, which also note you're gonna have to give the photo to me so I can enlarge it. But the background is interesting. What I mean is you're not just doing a flat color. If you want an A on this, you're going to have to do something with the background. What I did here is I faded from one color to another. You could I've had people make designs, letters, words, all this different stuff, but you need to do something more to the background than just a plain color if you want an A on it. The last part of it is the project is painted using great technique and shows a proper use of media with no gaps or paper and neat edges and brush strokes. Your brushes go left and right, like they keep in the same direction. I can see there's no paper. A lot of people like to have different, like I can't see any pencil marks. I don't want to see that. This is a painting. So when you're doing your pencil stuff, it's got to be nice and light. Neat edges. My edges are super crisp and clear and clean all the way across. You really are, did you paint it well? It's got to be painted great. So that's essentially what I'm looking for in the project. Now what you're going to do is you can go and find an image that you want to do. And after you find the image, which is the big thing, then we're going to move on to the next step.